camera upwards. We're going to shift this down just a slight bit, just a tiny bit. Okay, so yes, we are going to start this off today with a little bit of a more of like a let's talk situation. We are going to go over to YouTube and we are going to type in a certain thing called Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Because this stems off from actually this guy right here, Maximilian Dude, is watching a video that Matt McMuscles made. Actually, this one right here, what happened, and so there was this whole there was a part of this video where Matt McMuscles gets into the thing of like Street Fighter 3 had multiple different versions of the game happen and come out, and it was just like this. It just got this thought train rolling in my head of, wow, so many people complain like hell about modern day gaming as being like they always release products that are unfinished. You had the whole thing of the arcades where Street Fighter 3 Third Strike was out and whatnot. And let's just grab all these and we'll just bring them out in the wiki pages. Okay, so Street Fighter 3 was an arcade. It was an arcade cabinet that they put out with an arcade version of Street Fighter. So Street Fighter 2 was this major, huge success of a game. The Street Fighter series overall is one of the oldest series in fighting game history. And there was a lot that you can learn off from, especially with a game like, and we are going to get into this ties back around to Street Fighter 5. Type arcade champion. Okay, so Street Fighter 5, all these different editions of Street Fighter 5 that came out. We're going to tie it back around to this in a minute. So Street Fighter 2 comes out, sells ridiculous amounts. It was, where is the reception? Yeah, it's like $1,300 to $1,400 per week on arcade machines. Street Fighter 2 was like huge. It was huge. The US, it's unknown amounts and everything, but the championship edition, again, billions of dollars for Street Fighter 2. Now, back in the 90s, that was huge money. Everybody was looking at millions back in the 90s. Billions weren't even thought of. So Street Fighter 2, huge success. Okay, so Street Fighter 3 has the weight of the world on its shoulders. Now, we can actually push this over to something like a Cyberpunk, something like a Street Fighter 5 even. So Cyberpunk is riding off from this wave of success that The Witcher had, and then also you have something like Resident Evil 3 remake riding off from the success that Resident Evil 2 remake had. So by the third version of something, they're going to try something a little bit different, a little bit new, because the people that are making it are also going to want to try something a little bit different, a little bit new. When it comes to gaming, though, every single title has to it has to both break even and also make profit, because that's just the way the gaming industry works. It's the nature of the beast. So Street Fighter 3 comes out and it bombed really badly from what's from what we're hearing from like Max and Matt McMuscles, that it bombed severely. I don't know. I wasn't around the arcades, but if what they were saying is true of that arcade cabinet just got no use, and then all of a sudden the Dreamcast comes around and boom, it gets thrown out there on the Dreamcast. Dreamcast was a pretty big system. I remember the Dreamcast, seeing it. I was on the PlayStation, and Dreamcast had some titles that the PlayStation didn't have, which I was just like, oh, that's a bummer. But there was so much on the PlayStation that I was into it. Street Fighter would go through a couple different versions of it. Okay, so then we have the Street Fighter Second Impact, which is basically the second version of Street Fighter 2. Now, again, Street Fighter 2, it's basically so. When everybody's out there is like, why do we have so many patch updates? Why do we gotta wait for these games to get fixed and everything fixed out on it? That happening in modern day where you have major patch updates and everything is nothing new. We've been seeing this since the 90s. The difference is, and this is where, when I say this, today is the golden era of gaming, and when I say that back in the day we didn't get patch updates, we had to buy brand new versions of games, because then you had something like a Street Fighter 3 Second Impact This is what I mean by it. You had to buy a whole new version of the game. Could you trade in the original game that you have? Sure. But the fact of the matter is, Street Fighter 30th edition, oh, it is included in there. There's a reason why, like, something like a Street Fighter 30th edition has Street Fighter 2 The World Warriors, a Champion Edition, Hyper Fighting, all of these different versions of the game. See, 90, 91, 92, 92, finally the new Challengers 1993, which is basically like if you're buying the season pass for it. And then the Tournament Battle, Switch exclusive. Okay, so it went over to they re-released it on the Switch. So back in 93, so then the Tournament Battle, most likely I'm thinking that has new fourth game Street Fighter 2 sub-series. It refines the something. Okay, what does it do? Refines and balances existing character rosters from previous versions. This right here, that's a patch update. We get those for free now. You would have to go down to the store, trade in your old copy of the game if you wanted the balance patch updates and everything for the game. With more sophisticated graphics and audio over the CP system hardware used in previous versions of Street Fighter 2. So if you want like the next gen or the next big upgrade to enable, so say how we get 60 FPS patches nowadays, you would have to trade in your Street Fighter 2 to get the next version of it with the better graphics and everything. Nowadays, it's a simple free update, 60 FPS patch. Boom, you have that. This is why I say we are in a way better situation in gaming nowadays. So when the developers delay games and when they are, I see so many people going, no, you can't delay the game. What the hell? Why is the game getting delayed? There's a great reason for it, because you're having, instead of us having all these different versions of one game, it's getting delayed. So then the final product turns into, hopefully they're going to get to their Street Fighter Third Strike status of that game release, which now Street Fighter 3 Third Strike is probably one of the most talked about, most beloved versions of Street Fighter 3. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, like that's where the games are striving to get to, is that Third Strike edition, where it is the full edition, the full roster, all the features. Everybody loves it. Not only is it like a definitive edition of a game, so where we have something like, okay, sure, GTA Definitive Edition. I give you all the credit in the world. It didn't launch perfectly. The raindrops and all that stuff were, there's some very weird stuff that was happening with that. But we get free patch updates. So when GTA Definitive Edition dropped, it was in a Street Fighter 3 version. Now we've had some patch updates and everything. It's probably into its second impact version at this point, where they fixed up a lot of stuff. There's a lot of like fog effects, rain's been fixed, this and that and the other thing. Are we going to see more of that to where it's fixed up? Well, this is the other thing about modern day gaming and why it's the best era right now, the golden era of gaming, because to reach for GTA's Trilogy Anniversary Edition thing to reach its Third Strike status, the mining community has jumped in and really helped out with it. Also, Cyberpunk 2. Cyberpunk has gone from its Street Fighter 3 original release, where Cyberpunk came out, it didn't work on a lot of systems and it's had problems and everything else. Then they did the major patch updates and it helped it work on older systems. Is it perfect? By no means, no. But it is actually working now. You can run that thing on a PS4 Pro and it more or less functions and it runs. You can finish the game. That's all you really need to be doing. Now they're working on a next gen update for Cyberpunk. It's going to be in its Third Strike phase, basically. This is where Street Fighter can teach a lot of the younger generation about how game development works, is in the fact that, again, back in the day, you'd have your copy, your physical copy of Street Fighter 3. Oh man, they're working on this second impact. Okay, I'm going to take this physical copy, bring it all the way down to the store. I'm going to trade this physical copy in for another version of that exact same game I just had for another physical copy of it. Cool. A year a year, what is it? 2 years? A year later? Yeah, like 2 years later. Oh, fuck, there's another version of it. Now I got to take that exact same physical copy I just traded in before, of that exact same game. We're bringing it back down to the store again, trade it in for another version of the game. The trade-in costs and everything also on top of that is like you're paying way more. Now you just get a free update. You just download it, and there you go. And there's your Third Strike edition. Now, we also have, like I said, the GTA Trilogy Collection is basically like the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. You know, it's not perfect. It's fully functional. All the games are there. You get all of this in it. It's there on your system if you want it. So your 30th anniversary, see how this is on Switch and PS4 release, you know, years later, like decades later. It's an anniversary collection. So on that, it's like you're getting the whole kit and caboodle of that, all that hard work across this whole timeline wrapped up in one nice little neatly done package. Now, are anniversary collections always the greatest version of the game ever? No. Same thing that happened with 30th Anniversary Collection is the same thing that happened with like GTA Trilogy. But you also have something, this is another effect of the business that is actually really, really well thought out and well done that we've just morphed into. So Street Fighter 5. Okay, so that Street Fighter 5 game that you see on your PS4, that you see on your PS5, that you see plastered all over the place on PlayStation Now. I think did we get a free copy of it or something? I think we got a free upgrade or something like that to a championship edition and everything over the years. So first we had the betas going on. I think this was another one that was in the arcades before it came to, I think they were run in the arcades if I'm not mistaken. The game was officially YouTube. Game was built using UE4. I can't remember if Street Fighter 5 was in the arcades or not, but for console version of the game, we'll stick with that. So we had the beta. It was cool. It was all right. I played the beta. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It made me go, I'm going to pre-order that. Nice. Which is a pre-order thing. That's another modern day gaming thing that, yes, we get extra content in the game for pre-ordering. That's actually pretty cool if you think about it. So where the game should release and be in its full state and there shouldn't be any more DLC content and everything. If you think about this, though, you're getting extra stuff for just throwing down cash early on the game. Now, you don't have to buy the game 4 months before. You don't have to buy the game 3 weeks before. You could buy it literally 48 hours before it comes out. You could drop that down. Bam, you got the pre-order on it. There you go. Then you know you've seen the gameplay. You know if you're going to like it or not. If you've done your research on it, you know if you're going to like it or not, and you're going to know if there's anything that's like microtransaction heavy in it or whatever. Maybe microtransactions might be the only thing that I have a gripe with nowadays. But again, golden era of gaming. So first the beta happens, as I said. Then we have Street Fighter 5 drops, and it did not land well. There was a lot of controversy announced arcade edition. So maybe it was the arcade edition that dropped first. There was a lot of controversy because the online ran pretty damn poorly, and there was a lot of like glitches and stuff happening in that. And then this is where I started to see the argument of it was right around this time, Street Fighter 5 dropping. I started seeing the argument of, well, basically the whole argument of, well, games need to release in a fully done out state with no DLC and all that stuff. And it's like, you don't really realize what you're asking for there. You're asking for us to have to literally rebuy the game over again. That's what that model would look like in the games industry. So years later, it took them 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 3 years later, then we see Street Fighter 5 Champion Edition. Now, Champion Edition is, of course, like the second impact of Street Fighter 5. So we get extra characters, make several gameplay and balance changes, including giving every character a second V skill. Again, if we were back in these days, we would have to bring the actual disc into a GameStop or something, or EB Games back in the day, and then trade that in, get another disc, and go home, and then probably even have to redo your save file data and everything, like go through arcade modes and all that stuff, and re-unlock everything and whatnot. In this one, we just get a download, or you can, or well, this is a download that you would have to pay money for, but it's not like you still have all your save data there. You have all the patch updates from the last one, and you don't have to do this. Like, you can still compete with people online, and you don't have to have the Champion Edition. Any version of Street Fighter V will work with any version of Street Fighter V. You're just going to be missing some of the. But here's the other thing, though: if you have just the arcade version of it, you're still getting all the gameplay and balance changes. That's huge. These changes, and you're also getting the second V skill. So again, you don't have to trade in anything. You are just getting it through a download. The retail package includes every character, stage, costume released through season 4. So now this is where it differs from back in the day to this, where now through if you buy the Street Fighter V pack, I think it was like $10 or $15. Usually it's on sale all the time. Especially during like Evo and where whatever tournaments that Street Fighter V is part of. Now you get this whole DLC character pack with extra roster members, with extra characters. The only problem with this that I have ever had is if a character is too overpowered. Like Dragon Ball FighterZ has some overpowered characters in there where I just find them. It's just a pay to win mechanic, and I've said this over and over and over again. If the new characters are way too overpowered, then it becomes a thing of like, well, now I can't defeat this character because I don't have any tools in the trade to go against that person and their character that is just like breaking the game. To me, that's pay to win because you have to pay extra cash to get that character. And if I don't have the extra cash on me to buy that character, I'm stuck with just the roster I have. So therefore, the newer character to me is a pay to win mechanic in that aspect. Now, if we had games just drop characters for free, or a solid way of earning cash to buy the character in game, so the double split. So Street Fighter V does a really awesome job of it's just they don't give you enough cash. If you play the hell out of Street Fighter V, you can buy every character in there with the actual in-game currency that you can actually work up to. You can grind through to get. Now you have the champion. So we have the Champion Edition, but then we have the Champion Edition with all characters. That is literally the definitive edition because Street Fighter V is over. That is all season pass characters, all right there. Again, back in the day, it's this like the all characters version would probably be the Third Strike. So Street Fighter V is in its Third Strike version of its release, and instead of yes, it did start out as an arcade game. So instead of Street Fighter V, you just having to buy season pass and everything, they have one package deal where you can get everything, boom, right then and there. So the point of all this, after I'm telling you all this history and everything of the Street Fighter series, but you can take this whole Street Fighter V series thing, and this is just like the modern day version of what we had back in the day. And like I said, this applies to every game that there is. So GTA 5 with its online mode is the same deal. Like you never like when GTA 5 first launched on the Xbox 360, there was no online. We didn't get the online for another like 4 to 6 months afterwards. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but the online was something that everybody's like, man, wait until that online drops. It's gonna be so incredibly awesome and everything. Then we didn't have any private lobbies. So the GTA Online has basically been GTA 6 in a way. Now, the other weird one about this is how people they just keep going like, we shouldn't have any DLC, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you have DLC though? Because like, why wouldn't you want DLC? Like extra content for the game that you like to run around in, especially if that DLC or that patch update, and the people that are against patch updates too. That's just a weird take to me to have, because with the patch updates, we've seen games go from 30 FPS to 60 FPS. Now that not only does it make the game look smoother, but that also makes the game control a hell of a lot smoother. So to me, it's like, man, like as long as it's not a microtransaction in a competitive game like a Street Fighter or a Call of Duty or a Warzone or a Fortnite or whatever, as long as the DLC is cosmetic only, and I've said this so many times over the years, if it's cosmetic only, it just makes you look really cool, sure, why not? As soon as it becomes a, if it, especially for competitive games, as soon as it becomes a edge over the competition, that's when I draw a line on DLC, because then you are introducing a pay-to-win mechanic. Any DLC that is going to give you a one-up edge that you have to pay for, if characters get dropped for free, I'm all for it. If a character gets dropped into a game and you can earn it in-game, I'm still there for it. Just make sure that the balance of how much, credits that you're earning in-game is still balanced out. Like I said, Street Fighter 5, I think, gives you a little bit too low of credits. That's why I kind of fell off from Street Fighter 5. Unless I have like a little bit of cash, extra cash lying around, and I can pick up a character or two, and I can keep up with that newest season, I have no real reason. Actually, matter of fact, pretty soon, I actually do want to go back and do one night of Street Fighter 3 Third Strike and Street Fighter 5 Champion Edition. And I don't know, just have a Street Fighter night, because I've been itching for that. But some stuff to keep in mind with all this is just that fact of, like, whenever you hear somebody saying like DLC practices and microtransactions are the worst thing in gaming ever to ever be introduced, keep this whole thought train in mind when people are saying that stuff, because in all honesty, this is the best time that we've ever had in gaming because of DLC, because of updates. If something is broken a game and it's affecting the overall enjoyment of that game, we can actually get a patch updated and fixed. We can just send a word over to the developer. If there's multiple people sending word over to the developer, they will look into it. They will send out a hot patch fix. Boom. The next week or whatever, or next few days, you get that fix happening. I think that is one of the greatest things about modern day gaming is the internet access. Internet it's a tool. It's a very powerful tool that the developers and the consumers can both use to actually make the games into the best product they've ever been. Like the gaming industry into the best product, or the worst. It can go both ways. Tools can be used both ways, always. So anyways, for the YouTube side of things, I want to say go check out the rest of the channel. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I will see you next time.